Classroom of the Elite Year 2 Volume 9. Hey, do you know what blue balls means? Well, the first Google search will tell you that it means epididymal hypertension. A term I am sure you all are incredibly familiar with. But for the few that haven't been using the term in their everyday life, epididymal hypertension is basically what happens when a feisty battle between Nagumo Miyabi and Ayano Koji Kiyotaka just about reaches the point of ejaculation, but then the ugly truth says, no. That's not happening now. That will happen another 2 volumes down the road. After that you are left with nothing but a high school girl's romance to satisfy your boner. Although the average code reader is still quite satisfied by that. And that's cause of this bitch. See, the crux of this volume was all about Ichino's is being kinda weird. Question mark. Before the novel had even been translated, just by looking at the illustration the fandom had started wondering. Is Ichino's becoming a yandere or not? Is Honami x Ayano Koji going to be a thing? Is Kei destined to get heartbroken cause Ayano Koji wants to give her some character development? And C, while the reader Kojis argue about which ship they support. Even as a slightly based Kei fan, I'm glad that Ichino's finally got a dub. I feel like for the past fricking 10 volume reviews I have been expressing my deep sympathy for Ichino's. So believe me when I say, I feel ecstatic that Ichino's has finally been bestowed with some character development that actually puts some brain cells in her head. Like finally she is showing that, yes, she does in fact have a brain capable of strategizing. The first time we are seeing this after the ship exam in Volume 4. First year Volume 4. For the first time since then, Ichino's has finally managed to ever so slightly oversmart someone. And that someone in this volume is Ryuan. Really impressive, although this special exam was a bit of an Ohio joke. But still, win was accomplished by Ichino's. And that counts for a lot, cause now Ichino's class is no longer at the bottom, they are in Class C. And that was a much needed change. Cause where the situation is, or perhaps was, entailed that Ichino's class would no longer be a contender for the competition to Class A. In fact, Nagumo pretty much said it straight up. And talking about what else Nagumo Miyabi said, let's start with talk about his insecurities before moving on to Ichino's situation in the special exam. See, this time, Nagumo had his plans set straight. He was going to call up Ayano Koji to the student council rooms, give him a bet he couldn't refuse, and finally have a battle with Ayano Koji and prove to himself that he was actually as great as he thinks himself to be. See, in his monologue, Nagumo basically says, hey, I am great, but I have just a tiny suspicious subconscious pessimistic tingling that perhaps I am not. I have never really had a great opponent to go toe to toe with, so it's hard to measure my greatness. So, am I actually great, or the people around me just suckers? And to know the answer to that question, Nagumo wants to fight Ayano Koji. But there is someone who doesn't want that. Someone who doesn't care about resolving Nagumo's insecurities or the code reader's blue balls. It's the man who hadn't done anything before, Kiriyama. Kiriyama's problem with the fight between Nagumo and Ayano Koji was its sheer expense. He didn't care about how exactly the fight went, cause he most likely thinks that Nagumo is just going to win. He is more concerned about Nagumo betting 20 million private points. To give a bigger picture, Ayano Koji was ready to have a face-off with Nagumo. The competition was betting on who is going to be the next student council president, Horikita Suzune or Ichino's Honami. The deal was, if Nagumo wins, Ayano Koji will get expelled. If Ayano Koji wins, he will get 20 million private points. Now Kiriyama's problem was that the 20 million that would go to Ayano Koji in case Nagumo lost would come from the funds from which the other third-year students will get their ticket to Class A. Which is just from Nagumo's personal pocket. And Kiriyama couldn't stand that. He didn't want Nagumo to just bet the 20 million private points when he should be giving them to the deserving third-year student to get to Class A. Also, on a side note, Kiriyama is still not in Class A himself. See, the system that Nagumo has placed in the third year makes it so that every student who pleases Nagumo receives a ticket to Class A. But the catch is that, Nagumo can always cancel the ticket in case the person does something he doesn't like. And in this case, Kiriyama did do that. Kiriyama first of all became the vice president and, as quoted, got in bed with Nagumo, and rightfully received a ticket to Class A. But then Kiriyama did something that Nagumo definitely wasn't going to like. So the bet was, who is going to be the next student council president, Horikita or Ichino's? Thinking of this, Kiriyama had the brilliant, genius, complicated as fuck plan to just make Ichino's quit from the student council. That way, Horikita wins by default. No competition, no bet, no possible loss of private point. And the way he went about trying to achieve this is nothing short of confused Pepe laugh. Here is the genius plan that Kiriyama's mind came up with. Order some third year's Class D students to frame Kuryuin for shoplifting. Tell them it's Nagumo's orders so that when they got caught they blame Nagumo. And the reason for doing all this is so that when Kuryuin confronts Nagumo, hopefully in front of Ichinos, Kuryuin can really talk shit about all the shoplifters in the world, like how they are just worthless pieces of shit and how deeply offended she is to have someone try and frame her for such an heinous crime that can only be done by a R-word person. That's what Kiriyama wanted Kuryuin to say in front of Ichinos so that Ichinos feels ashamed about herself, cause she that shoplifted one time, and just resigns. Like just from some words from a stranger, she straight up should feel like giving up. And through that there will be no way left for Nagumo and Ayanokoji to fight. Classic Kiriyama W, it will be. Kiriyama thought to himself, not at all thinking of what other graver consequences those actions could have. But hey, ultimately Ichinos did resign and gave up the position of student council president. But of course, not cause of Kiriyama's stupid R-word plan. She did it out of her own violation cause, well I think she needed to focus on her own class. But the thing is the people from her class, at least those have the ability to have opinions of their own, were worried that when rumors of Ichinos quitting student council spread. See what exactly the four people thought about Ichinos quitting from student council doesn't really matter cause they didn't do much of anything. But they did do the most important task of furthering the plot by making Ayanokoji talk with Ichinos on a holiday. A fact that Kei didn't enjoy. Which was understandable. You don't really get psyched up when you know your significant other is going to be spending a holiday meeting a person of the other gender. And here was the scenario. Kei is a bit pissed. There is Ayanokoji who by customs should be coming up with an excuse or saying something that will lighten his girlfriend's mood but nah. Ayanokoji was like, let's give this girl some character development. So he just let his girlfriend be angry and decided to just observe, which led to Kei's and Ayanokoji's first real fight. And I must say, it is a bit of a sadistic satisfying thing to just have a fight with someone and just observe how that person deals with it, cause sometimes you learn a lot about a person through doing such antics. But to do that to your loving girlfriend for the sake of her character development, now that's a gigachad move to that to your girlfriend. As expected of the no-heart Koji. But that fight evolved into perhaps a lasting crack in their relationship, but I will discuss that later. For now let's talk about how Ayanokoji's date with Ichinos went and the reason why everyone is calling her a yandere. So the day started simple. You know the cliché in her monologue in the side story. Ichinos was nervous but she tried to act as happy as possible. Then Ayanokoji was like, bitch you tell me what to do, so they went to hit the gym. Cause apparently Ichinos is turning into a gym rat. And after hitting the gym Ayanokoji wants to turn into one too. See, he was a gym child but then 2 years into the high school with no training his gains are no more. He is not even close to the physical state he was in before he had entered the high school, and because of this trip to gym Ayanokoji has decided to go live the gym bro lifestyle again and regain those gains. Also, they meet another girl from Ichinos' class there who is also one of the people who told Ayanokoji to meet up with Ichinos to see what's wrong with her. And the first thing she did after meeting them was making Ichinos aware that she might be playing into Ayanokoji's fetishes by showing out her gym fit. Which of course is something she shouldn't be making a big deal about. I mean, unlike the millions of people who search up such feats on Pornhub, Ayanokoji is actually the gigachad who probably doesn't even know about fetishes. In fact, he is probably the only teenage boy who has never looked at porn. Although actually perhaps no, it could be that Ayanokoji had do some research, air quotes, when he was reading the Book of Love, air quotes. So it could be that he did possibly look that shit up. I mean, he obviously did do the deed, but a smart man like Ayanokoji must have had the idea to study up on this subject. You know what, that's an interesting thing. Never thought about it. Anyways, this girl, whose name I deemed very unimportant, was there being the third gym wheeler. But the thing that caught my attention, and this really proves that looking at stupid anime theories has deeply corroded my brain, was the scene where Ayanokoji starts discussing who this girl likes and then she says, oh, she has been loving someone from the middle school days or she has a childhood crush on some person. And my very first thought was to match this picture of this girl with Yuki's picture from Volume 0. For no freaking sensible reason. I have stupid anime theories brain rot for me to be thinking Yamo god-like situation. Anyways, here comes the part where all the readers are like, oh my god, Ichinos is starting to act so weird. So Ichinos quite openly declares her still strong love for Ayanokoji. Ayanokoji is quite surprised by her bold mindset in this regard. And then Ichinos starts asking a bit about his relationship with Kei. About who proposed first. Plus this also later ties in with another thing that Ichinos said, which was that talking to Ayanokoji about Kei somehow made her calmer or feel something special. And rather than having thoughts about Ichino's being yandere, I am just like, hey, does this bitch have NTR streak inside of her? Is she throwing away all her shame and enjoying the thought of Kei and Ayanokoji together while also having strong feelings for Ayanokoji? See, I joke here, but really Ichino's hasn't done anything yandere really. She went to Ayanokoji's room, touched his face, told him she still loves him, said that he should patch up his fight with his girlfriend, says she will be a great person that Ayanokoji can look at. She clearly has thrown away her shame and gained confidence. That's it, for now. I saw some theory like Ichino's has some big plan for the future where she will get Ayanokoji to transfer to her class, but that's stupid. No way she has thought that shit up. I think she has just finally got into the right mindset and is going forward with confidence and making plans as she goes. And honestly, even if she has become a crazy bitch, I am just glad that the most deserving person in classroom of the elite is finally getting some W. Kudos to that. Even Ryuan and Sakyongi acknowledged that they had been underestimating Ichino's this time and that she might swing at them with a big surprise. Ain't that nice to hear? But what isn't nice to hear is that, when Kei finally talks to Ichino's after weeks of silence from Ayanokoji, Ichino's just tells her that there is nothing going on between them. And as Kei walks away she whispers, yet. Not gonna lie, still think Ichino's is the kindest person in classroom of the elite. But that was a bitch move. Let's just acknowledge that, that's hella bitchy. If by any chance Kei had heard that, there was going to be a cat fight right then and there. Like come on, even Sato would have jumped in cause nobody is taking that. And the thing is just before that Kei received a picture of Ayanokoji and Ichino's leaving the gym together. Plus Kei is having stress with it, she knows how emotionless Ayanokoji is and just them not talking at all for such a period of time and getting bad news from all sides can be devastating for her. Or perhaps Ayanokoji will come in clutch with a good character development moment. But honestly something Ichino's ex Ayanokoji is bound to happen in the future volumes. And you know the other thing that is bound to happen in the future volumes, Ayanokoji changing class. See, there have been more and more foreshadowing with every volume and it's just pretty much confirmed now. The question is how. When Ayanokoji asked for 20 million points from Nagumo in case he wins, that's where he is going to get his class transfer ticket, I thought, but then when the fight got cancelled Ayanokoji wasn't phased. So his original plan to get 20 million private points probably had nothing to do with Nagumo, so he isn't dependent on such a fight. So it will be interesting to see what exactly is the big plan, hopefully that happens in the next 2 years. And something else that is definitely gonna happen in the next 2 years is Kushida and Horikita's marriage. There is no stopping that. Like of course after Horikita became the student council president she wanted Kushida as her secretary. Although she did have to kneel to Kushida for that, I see some dominatrix future for their relationship. Another member of the student council is Nanase who, we must not forget, was a faulty tool. We don't exactly know what she is cooking but she is definitely hiding something. And it will definitely be something big unless the author forgets about that plot point. And the first actual thing that Horikita's student council did was catch Kuriyama's stupid fucking plan. A plan so unbelievable that it felt like it had been placed there specifically so that Horikita can catch it and show off her abilities and compensate for the fact that she had got the position cause no one else wanted it by showing off some actually abilities. An interesting thing to note. And another interesting thing this volume was that just like the first year, Ayanokoji found a senior girl crying by herself. But this time we got to know about the whole situation. Asahina, Nagumo's classmate, was crying to herself because of the stress of the situation that Nagumo has created. See, Nagumo has created his own splendid empire among the third year where everyone has to pay him tax. That's in the contract among many other things that makes Nagumo hold the absolute power. And because of this those students who are not yet in class are just begging to be put in the class A by being in the grace of their king. And that is kinda insufferable to watch. For Asahina and even Kiriyama. So yeah, pitful situation with the third year student. And hey, let's talk about the special exam this time. Which was just a written exam with a twist that if a student with low OVA scores more the class gets more points, so this time Horikita's class was put against Sakyongi, and cause they had the advantage Horikita's class won. Plus Sakyongi didn't even try. She just let it be and collected more information by seeing the result, whatever that means. And Hashimoto is preparing for every possible scenario in which each class can win and ready to backstab anyone to get to the class that will make it to Class A. I think he will get the scare off his life when Ayanokoji changes class and it completely throws him off balance. Anyways, that's the juicy gist of what happened this volume. And before this review ends, let's just look at this Ishigami's illustration. And I want to say, this illustration doesn't really portray Ishigami as the genius, who is also very social and gets along well with everyone, student council worthy kid. Doesn't really go with what the text was saying. This guy would look more acceptable standing next to House or Ryuan. And that's it of my judging.
Every time I close my